Welcome to the Lair, a place where interesting people you may know tell you things you didn't. So grab a chair and your favorite vice and get comfortable. There are no rules in the Lair, but there is Laura Babcock. You know her from TV, and she is not into media monogamy. Let's find out who else is in the Lair.
So let's start with that. Welcome everyone. You're listening to the Laircast with Tom Wilson. And whenever we've got a guest here in the Lair that has a significant Wikipedia entry, I like to embarrass them off the top by reading it. So I'm going to do that to you, Tom.
All right.
For other people of the same... Oh, no, that's the wrong part. Tom Wilson is a Canadian rock musician from Hamilton. And of course, here the Laircast is in the Hammer downtown. A veteran of the Canadian music scene, Wilson has been a writer and performer for many years. Wilson's eclectic musical style has ranged from the psychobilly sound of the Florida Razors to the western roots style of Blackie and Rodeo Kings and the funk blues-inspired rock of Junkhouse. His most recent project is Lee Harvey Osmond, which is a collaborative effort with members of Cowboy Junkies and Sky Diggers. Aren't Sky Diggers coming to town? I thought I saw them at Cops Call Season.
Yes, I think that. I can ask Lauren about that.
Yeah, no, I think that, yeah, because Lauren's running the show now, yeah. Lorenzo Mercanti's in the house. In 2001, Wilson released a solo album titled Planet Love, which featured the hit Dig It, awesome tune. In 2006, he released his second solo album, Dog Years. In between the releases of both solo albums, he partnered up with Daniel Lanois' older brother, Bob Lanois, to record the Shack Recordings Volume 1, a collection of quieter acoustic songs with Bob recording and accompanying him on blues, harp, and a number of songs. Wilson's career with the Juno Award-winning Blackie and the Rodeo Kings has flourished with their 5 releases on label True North Records. High or Hurtin', Kings of Love, Bark, Let's Frolic, and Let's Frolic Again. His songs have been performed by a growing list of artists and collaborators, including Mavis Staples, Colin James, Stephen Fearing, Adam Gregory, Billy Ray Cyrus, Craig Northey, David Ricketts, and Edwin. Numerous Wilson songs have been used in television, commercials, motion pictures. It's an honor to have you in the Lair. Thanks for being here, Tom Wilson.
I feel great. Hey, I got to say, you know, I thought this was a TV show, so I kind of... I had no idea. It was I feel like, you know, when Kramer got the Merv Griffin set on Seinfeld?
Yeah.
That's exactly how I feel right now. Like, where are the cameras?
Yeah. Well, we'll take some stills and we'll do stuff to you on social media and we'll announce it on Cable 14. But otherwise, it's all audio. Good. And we did that on purpose because we wanted to try to capture those great conversations at cocktail parties that always happen late at night. Nobody ever gets on record. Sometimes we forget to record, but tonight we're going to for sure, Tom. I love that you're doing your book launch here in Hamilton. Why did you decide to do it in Hamilton and not any of the other places where you're doing work?
Well, I don't, you know, I live here and I shop at Fortino's, and that's besides doing maybe a show here, you know, once a year. I don't really associate's the wrong word, but I don't integrate with the art community at all in Hamilton just because I'm busy and I'm away. But I have to say, one of the things that I truly love, and I've actually written articles in The Spectator about, was the art crawl when it started up, because I was away on the road and. I came home.
That's God getting angry about it.
I came home and I was going for a cup of tea down in the North End. It was like it looked like Hamilton was alive. It looked like Hamilton looked like possibly in the 50s, you know, or post-war Hamilton when there was actually life going on in the city. And it didn't look like the burned-out shell of something beautiful that happened here. And I thought that was... It was really inspiring to me, and although I don't really do any art openings or shows on James Street North, I sure love coming here and doing that. The book is being launched this Thursday, March 14th, down at Sarcoa Restaurant, and we wanted to do it in Hamilton because a lot of the photographs in the book are from Hamilton. They're also from Nashville and Paris and Chicago and Vancouver and Picton, Ontario. It's wherever I've gone. I've kind of taken advantage of...
And this is the Folk Sinner, a photographic ghost journey.
Yeah.
Folk Sinner is the best title ever.
It is there's actually a band in Hamilton that my friend Ralph Nicole has called the Folk Sinners. I had to call him up when he named his band that. I said, can I use that name for my album? And he said, yeah, of course, because they're great. They're they're kind of middle-aged stoners, and they're great musicians and great guys. So they were gracious enough to let me use their name for my album, and now I've used it for a book. So.
Well, you mentioned the arts community locally, so I put out on Twitter and Facebook that you're going to be here tonight and wanted to see what people would ask you.
Yeah.
And the questions range from the serious to the absurd, and I'll cover as many of them as I can tonight, Tom. But one of them was written by somebody that says, Tom has been in the music scene for so long, many young musicians can learn a thing or two from him. Oh. So they want to know, and this is from Andrea Camara. She says, the city is seeing more arts and culture development, especially with James North area, which is what you're talking about. Yeah. Do musicians have more hope now, do you think, in Hamilton?
Well, they've always had hope in Hamilton because our perspective hasn't been from Toronto. As musicians, I can speak as musicians. As writers and artists, I don't know. But we haven't really gazed towards Toronto as much as we've gazed towards Buffalo and Highway 6, that I call the Mystic Highway, down to Port Dover, the Six Nations Reserve, the
Mystic Highway, I love that. I've never heard that before.
Well, the Mystic Highway came up because I was in London, England, being interviewed by the BBC years ago, and the fellow said, "Well, you certainly have quite a southern sound in your music," and that annoyed me. So I said, "Well, you mean like Southern Ontario?" And he says, "Well, I don't know what you mean by that." And I explained that Highway 6, running south out of Hamilton, was the home for great music throughout the late 50s and the 60s and the 70s. It had a destination called the Summer Gardens in Port Dover. It was a migration of not only the musicians, but it was a migration of tobacco workers, migrant workers from the Barbados and Ontario, respectfully, rednecks. You know, there was a mixture of Six Nations, which, by the way, has given birth to some of the best musicians I've ever seen in my life, anytime. And also vacationers down in Port Dover. It was the highway where Ronnie Hawkins fired his bass player, Rebel Payne, and they went and found this young kid who grew up shitting in a Crisco can in Turkey Point named Rick Danko, and hired him. And basically the band was formed, off of that Mystic Highway. So Highway 6, Hamilton actually lives beside an area of the world that is very unique and has given birth to really interesting music. So, I mean, we might hold our heads high as Hamilton musicians, but we actually live beside the birthplace of what would be, in the America, considered the Mississippi Delta.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, I've never even thought of it that way. That's awesome.
That's why I'm here.
That's right. Here's another question for you from somebody. This is from Michael Monitz. He says, what does being from Hamilton mean to you?
Well, it's always immediately you're the underdog. Yeah. You actually feel that way a little bit when you try to integrate around the community here or in your own country. It's kind of the same. If you hold on to that mentality, though, if you hold on the mentality, the old style, chip on your shoulder Hamiltonian mentality, you're actually not going to get anywhere, because you don't actually have to think about going to Toronto, and you don't have to think about the rest of Canada so much as you need to think about the rest of the world. And on a global level, being from Hamilton is actually a benefit. It's interesting. It's actually really a vibrant place. The very first time I was the band in the 90s called Junk House. I was being interviewed by Rolling Stone in Germany, and when they started talking about the album to me, they wanted to know about the Burlington Skyway and the TH&B Railroad, and they wanted to know about the Niagara Escarpment and all the things that I sang about on that record, and it really touched me, because when you take those things, when you take the elements of this city, when you take the streets of this city and you transport it over an ocean or to another part of the world, there's this romance that becomes attached to it. I mean, we've listened to Van Morrison sing about Cypress Avenue for like 45, 50 years now, and there's a beautiful romance that comes with all those words that Van Morrison sings, but, it's probably some shitty little street in Dublin, you know what I mean? It's probably not that great, And I think that when we recognize that our surroundings are so important to us and we learn to respect them, which is something that this city has ripped out of our hands over the years, time and time again. It's a total embarrassment as a Hamiltonian. So to answer the question simply, I can get on a rant here, but as a Hamiltonian, I'm deadly fucking proud, and I'm deadly embarrassed.
I want to get to both sides of that, but you mentioned romance. I found out today, because we were listening to some of your tunes this morning, and of course Shine was a huge song for Junkhouse. Yeah. One of our buddies got married to that. That was their first song at their wedding. Yeah, Chris Marshall and Tisha Marshall. What does that mean to you?
Yeah. Yeah, actually, that you know what? That song still makes quite a few mortgage payments for me every year.
He gets uncomfortable when it comes to anything intimate or romantic. What do you? He does. What do you feel about? How does that make you feel, knowing that people would choose one of your tunes for that big moment?
Well, I'm completely touched as far as romance goes. I'm glad. The song was actually written about my friend Allison and Dave Liss, who's both their parents died of cancer within a 3 or 4 month period. My daughter and my son are best friends with their kids. Like, we all grew up together, and those hydro towers are actually those hydro fields that are out in the west end of Hamilton, out by past McMaster University. What's the name of the street, man?
Like Whitney. It's like by Cathedral High School.
By Cathedral High School, those hydro towers, that kind of rained cancer down on the community and throughout, I guess, the 50s and 60s. So when you actually get the proof from people that you run into that your music is affecting them in that way. I ran into a guy that got put in solitary confinement in a prison out in Saskatchewan because he scratched the words to a song called "There's No Way Out of Love" into his jail cell wall, and they didn't go for that. So he says, "Hey man," I had to spend 2 weeks in solitary confinement because I kept fucking my cell up, writing your lyrics all over my walls. So, I mean, that's a different kind of romance, but you actually write as a Hamiltonian, and as, if I can be so brave as to consider myself an artist, I work to communicate with people. So when you get those results, whether it's in a joyous reunion of love and two hearts coming together, or whether it's a guy getting thrown into solitary confinement, the fact that there's life on earth because of your work is an important statement.
That's crazy. Let me talk about the embarrassment part, because somebody told me, I can't remember who, that when you had your first grandbaby, I guess, and you've got your beautiful daughters here, and she's got another one on the way. When you had your first grandbaby, didn't you write a blog, maybe this is just legend, apologizing to your grandchildren for city council?
No, it's in this book.
Okay, tell me about it.
That's in this book. There's a whole page. I'll talk about this book for a moment. I won't exploit this, although,
away.
I'm all about promotion. I did this book about the folk sinner, and I wanted to, it was my statement that art is in the moment. And my daughter inspired me to do the book, because she said, she said, Dad, these photographs you're taking on your phone are really interesting. She goes, we need to find a way to be able to get that to people, people who listen to your music, people who follow you would be interested in this. And I said, that's a great idea. So Madeline had this idea. And then my friend Lynn Kittredge Fox, who I did a children's book called The Mighty Moon King, which is the wrong title. I wanted it to be called Daddy Drinks Because You Cry, but nobody would go for that. But Lynn Kittredge Fox came along and said, I've been following you on Instagram. And I can't believe your photos. So between her and Madeline, who are sitting here tonight, they actually they pushed through the idea of taking my photographs. But I figured if I'm making a statement, it's my first book, and
I should say, in the children's book, these are actually your paintings, not your photographs.
Yeah,
right?
It's a painting. This was Lynn's idea.
Super cool.
I mean, artists need people like Madeline Wilson and Lynn Kittredge Fox to help their vision. But I figured that I've been writing about Hamilton in my music my entire life. No record has ever gone by without references to Hamilton and the people here that inspire me. So I figured in this first book, I put the lyrics to this new album I did called Folk Sinner, and then I have this page. I'll show this to the cameras, which don't exist because it's just the Merv Griffin set. There's a photograph of Iverwind Stadium, and there's also my grandson. And it basically, my true statement is, my city fucks up everything. And then I listed a bunch, through the help of Matt Jelly and Jamie Smith, I was able to, come up with a few of my own recollections of what we've lost in this city. So I named a bunch of them, and I made a statement to my grandchildren. I'm truly ashamed of the sad, foolish, and greed-driven destruction Hamilton City Hall is responsible for. I am sad that my grandchildren have to live in the shadow of Hamilton's stupidity. The reason why I said that was it's just, I said years ago that, you know, Hamilton is just completely fucked downtown, and it's all because they have not led with their hearts. And if we could find people that could lead with their hearts, we would actually, the whole presentation of this city would be different. I'm going to tell you why that's important. Because I'm not going to be able to take my kids to see Santa Claus in the same building that my mother took me to see Santa Claus. Now that's maybe just a sentimental old guy. But it's very important because for us to have respect for our past, for us to be able to reach back, is an inspiration to generations to come. That's something important. It's pride, and it inspires creativity. I have to tell you, if you grew up in Leuven, Belgium, and the cathedral that's been there for 500 years, 600 years, 700 years, the cobblestone streets are still intact, is that going to inspire a better world, or is the Home Depot and the chapters out in Ancaster, what kind of inspiration is that architecture going to give our future generations? And it's basically started with Jackson Square, and it's gone downhill since then. And I think that there's no way to recover, but there's a way to put the plug into the giant bathtub of shit that Hamilton City Hall has created for this city.
Come on, tell me you guys are tweeting this shit out. I'm listening to him so intently, I can't tweet this fast. So you said lead with their heart. What are they leading with now, if not their heart?
They're leading. Listen. I can't. I'm not going to spin. They're leading with their dick. But you know,
their dick to get reelected.
Listen, I know what. I don't want. And I don't even. You know. I don't even know. Here's how it works for me. I'm completely speaking from my heart, and I'm speaking as a Hamiltonian. I don't follow local politics, so it's not like I'm pointing my finger at any person.
But is that true that you don't follow local politics? Because you've always been kind of aware
I follow
of shit
what
going
pisses
on.
me off, Laura.
Yeah, you do.
You know,
when you get really mad, like around Pan Am, you write op-eds to the Spectator. You know, I know that
yeah,
used
sure,
to.
but
when
I mean,
Ken and I had a show years ago,
what pisses me off, but I can't put faces and names on people.
Right.
But all I can say is that over the last, since 1972 or 73, when they built Jackson Square, somebody's been filling their pockets with money.
Yeah.
That's all I got to say.
Well, one of our guests who's coming
And
up,
you know what? This city's pretty well known across this country as being about as crooked as a dog's hind leg.
Well, one of our, I won't, Lauren, what are you looking all weird for, Lauren? Just see that suddenly Lauren's going, oh, wait a second.
Hey man, you know what?
Don't look at him.
I'm just bringing back the news from the road. I'm not
Hey.
I'm not pointing fingers, and I'm not even an angry guy right now. I'm just kind of reporting what the rest of the country tells me, you know.
So I don't, and you know what, I'm not originally from here, and I travel a fair bit too, and I hear that as well. People think of Hamilton as being all of what you just described. It's interesting to ask you the question, because I said, you know, what are they leading with if not their hearts? You said, you know, their dicks. But is it greed? Do you really think that a lot of the decisions that have been made?
It's stupidity. It's waiting for the next carpetbagger to come in from Toronto or Montreal or Ottawa and do the job for them. It is unbelievably sublime laziness and stupidity that has let this happen. You
were not happy with the decision by council recently to bring in people from Ottawa to talk to citizens of Hamilton and engage them. Remember that whole, I remember you on Twitter saying what a clusterfuck you thought it was?
Yeah, it was misery.
We should have hired Rolling Stone in Germany, as they were asking what TH&B is.
Yeah, they were asking.
Right?
Yeah, right. At least they asked. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they were doing the research at least, exactly.
Well, the fact of the matter is that we have brilliant thinkers in this city, and we have unbelievable pride in this city, and that instead of giving it to carpetbaggers who are come in and grab the dough and go back home to wherever they live, respectfully, we need to.
I love to see. We need
to support our local creative traffic before we do anything. And by the way, you know
I like
what?
that.
Speaking about James Street North,
Yeah.
it's in the vision of artists that are going to change cities. I've traveled all over North America, and 500,000 people, cities with 500,000 people in it, were crumbling in the mid-'90s, and they're all coming back to life because of the vision of artists. And I'm going to tell you that it's no businessman, and it's no politician, it's no church that has the vision to change this city. It's the vision of artists. If we follow the visions of artists, we're actually going to come out on top. Because I'm going to ask you, who was the first man on the moon? Well, it wasn't some fucker in a NASA outfit. It was an artist that was the first man on the moon. So the vision for this city really
Very
rests
cool.
in the eyes of artists.
What do you think, Jeremy Freiberger? You're one of the artists he talks about. You're part of that community, and Matt, of course, is here, and everybody else. What do you think of that statement?
I'm pretty sure it was a NASA guy, actually.
I'm still confused on that.
Metaphorically, of course.
Jeremy, what do you think?
I couldn't agree more. I think every time we look at what's really getting traffic, what's getting like things happening on the ground in this community, it's oftentimes it's young artists sticking their neck out and trying things and experimenting.
Let me ask you this question that came in from Facebook, from David Hostin. Which modern young musicians do you like now, Tom? What do you think of the current state of Canadian music?
Well, I mean, I thank you for that question. But we've been asking about the state of our music, and we've been asking about the state of our art in Canada, and we've been asked in the 70s what Canadian culture is. We've been asking the questions way too long. Yeah. I mean, what I think about the state of Canadian music it doesn't matter to anybody. It's not going to change anything. It's something that it's funny that the Globe and Mail asked me for a statement on when Stompin' Tom Connors died, and I said that when educators and intellectuals were asking us what Canadian culture was, Stompin' Tom was stomping on a piece of wood with a J200 and banging out what Canadian culture was. So it really is not up to us to be asking the questions. It's up to us to be coming up with the answers. The state of Canadian music is as fantastic as it's always been. It's a brilliant, vibrant hotbed for songwriting. I mean, we're completely isolated. I go down to Nashville in Texas, and they say, "What's it like in Canada?" I said, "Well, it's the largest land mass in the entire world, and there's only 7 people that live there, and you met me, so you only got 6 more people to meet."
They're all named Mike, except
You know
for
what
Tom.
I mean? It's like it's impossible to make a living here. I mean, you can't even, after you leave Hamilton, after you leave Southern Ontario and go north, your next major market to play is like a 2.5-day drive. I mean, what kind of bullshit is that, man? Yeah, you know, it's like, okay, you're playing Toronto, next gig's in Winnipeg. It's like,
right,
well, you know.
right. I used to live in Winnipeg and wouldn't go back.
I love Winnipeg.
I wouldn't go back
and
even to hear you play.
By the way, I have to say, my attitude about Hamilton, when I started to form my Hamilton about, you know what I said about walking with your grandchildren in the same building where you went to see Santa Claus when you were a kid, came from Winnipeg because they didn't fuck it up, man.
They still have
They
to go
actually took
downtown
care of
and
it.
eat.
There's such a pride. There's a movie, and I urge everybody who's important or thinks they're important in Hamilton, more importantly, you know, who think they are important, to go out and see My Winnipeg. It's a movie made by Guy Madden, and it's way better if you smoke a couple joints before you
I would
see
have
it.
to be, yeah.
But it is absolutely, it's so embedded in Winnipeg pride and lore. And we need to do somebody needs to do the same thing in this city.
Because I hated Winnipeg because I moved there from Montreal and I didn't want to be there. But thinking about it, I used to work in that big old downtown Bay store, right? They kept those huge department stores. There was a kind of a romance about their big old windows and Santa and everything. You've got a point. I never thought about Winnipeg that way. I've got a question for you here. It comes in. What was the last song that you belted out during the shower? Because we all do it, Tom. Susan Edwards wants to know. Do you shower? No. I know.
Yeah, that's right. You shouldn't have showered.
Do you bathe?
Okay.
Yeah, I know. No, baby wipes. He does the Brad Pitt thing. Yeah.
The horse bath.
Well, that's a very sweet question. I don't know. I mean, I think, you know what? Here's the two sides of my mind are that I might be my job is to survive as an artist, and in order to survive as an artist, I have to be a businessman. So most of the time, my brain is thinking about how many tickets I can sell to Massey Hall rather than, you know, humming a song in the shower. I'm usually thinking about business, sadly.
Yeah.
But that's where I'm at.
Does that help your art or take away from your art, being aware of the need to promote it and make it marketable?
I made a pact when I was 4 years old that I wanted to be a musician. I wanted to die a musician. I wanted to survive as an artist. And if I walk out onto King William Street and get hit by a car tonight, I'll go into the grave an artist. I'll go into the grave a musician. In order to do that, I've had to do quite a lot of business, and I've had to do quite a bit of deals with the devil. Not you, Lauren.
Yeah, but if you play at the
we've done
casino,
deals.
you know,
We've done
if you-
There are people out there in the music industry more evil than Lauren Lieberman.
Well, let's talk about this for.
And they probably have
this audience will
nicer
agree.
suits, too.
Hold on, since you brought it up, you know, the last 3 Laircasts we had devolved into big casino fights, and we're in a bit of an armistice now, so we don't need to have to go there, but although we can. But you originally came out and said, you know what, I've played in lots of casinos, big deal, and then a couple of days later you came back and you were supporting the 140. Why are you walking away, Lauren? Where are you going? All of a sudden you need another beer.
Going to get a
Yeah,
beer,
I know.
Laura.
That's right. Sure you are. Those people over there are no more nice on this
Okay,
than
well,
Thomas.
first of all, to answer that, I think that I was misquoted. My friend, who's is a dear friend and a great supporter of Hamilton music and culture, Graham Rockingham, it was a phone interview, and I kind of got misquoted. And I don't blame, and I don't.
what
I'm not
did you
angry
mean to
about
say?
that. What I was saying was that I was saying that I go and play with Blackie and the Rodeo Kings at the Regina Casino, and I go to play there for 20 grand, and it's fantastic because I'm making a lot of money.
Sure.
When I go back there as a solo artist with Lee Harvey Osmond, I play the Exchange, which is down the street from the casino. What I was saying, what the question that came to me, which wasn't illustrated in the article, was the idea of small businesses surviving beside the casino, and that the casino basically taking over, overshadowing what goes on at places like This Ain't Hollywood.
Right, the blast zone, right? Like the economic blast zone around the casino. I gotta just
so-
ask Tom, are you okay if he smokes there? Because
Yeah, you
Mark,
can smoke,
Mark
Lauren.
Chamberlain.
Yeah,
dropped
Lauren
the
can do. You
F-bomb
know
over
what?
that.
Lauren can do whatever he wants.
All right.
He's
Well,
okay.
He intends to.
The idea is that if promoters, once again, it's about leading with your heart. You know, there's nothing that a casino can do that is going to get in the way of the vision of an artist or somebody who really loves music. Nobody
Did you
who.
get a big blowback from the 140 or so on that?
No, I didn't get a blowback. I actually didn't. I did, but I did recognize, with the help of my daughter, I did recognize that my community was standing up for something.
Yeah.
And as an artist and as a musician in this city, I felt that I should form an allegiance with them. I didn't agree. Listen, I don't have to agree with everything that Matt Jelly says, and I don't have to agree with everything that Lauren Lieberman
Right,
says.
right.
But you
I
know,
don't agree with either of them, hardly ever.
you know, but I do have to. I have to show some integrity.
Well, because the perception could be that because you've made it big, you know, for Hamilton.
I'm not that big.
No. You know, it was funny because I was saying to a good friend of yours, I think Renee Wetzler, the other day, I was saying to her, you know, I don't know how much of his music I really know. I'm not from Hamilton.
Yeah.
And then when I started listening to it all, I know a lot of the songs, right? They were
Yeah.
tunes I didn't even realize that you had done. But you know, you've made it. You play you've played across. You got a German magazine interviewing you. You just came off a flight from Tennessee. You've made it. And so Hamilton artists who are really struggling, who don't have
Right.
any royalties coming in from songs from the 90s or whatever, they might look at you and say, well, yeah, it's easy for you to not care about the casino because you're not relying on these smaller clubs or these smaller venues. So I think when you came back out and clarified and said that you were supporting that local group, it seemed to make more sense because that could be the perception, right? That you're too big to kind of worry about it
Well,
anymore.
I'm not, you know, and nobody is too big, and I just have to show some respect for my artistic community, you know, and it wasn't because it wasn't because friends of mine were on that side. It was just because it made sense. Now, here's what I do have to say about the casino, is that once again, like 99% of the things that this city has done, they've looked for a quick fix and they've looked for a quick answer. And if you think that you're going to put a bolt of lightning and a jolt of life into this city by putting in a gambling parlor, then you're completely wrong. It's an attempt at a quick fix by some ways of thinking. It's kind of, you know, paving over yet more architecture in this city that is needed and needs to be sustained, you know, for a quick fix idea.
Well, I think that they're referring to it as what, an integrated entertainment, whatever. They're taking the gambling out of it, right? You called it a gambling parlor, which it is, and I think they're looking at Sir John A. as the spot. But the point of it is, right, is that the discussion, I think, comes down to about a vision thing. I really don't care about gambling one way or another. I never did. Now that I've heard the impact it has on people's lives, I care a lot more than I used to, because I've learned a lot in the last few months about it. But I just think that, to your point, Hamilton doesn't need it. These are kind of a carpetbagger scenario again, right? Someone's going to come in, they're going to bring the money, and they're going to take out more than they brought in.
Yeah, and there's a part of me that doesn't care either way. Where I do care is in the depths of if it's a way of thinking that it's going to save our downtown, then you're just stupid.
Right.
And you've been proven you've been stupid since the 70s. So why should you show me that you're anything else but stupid?
Yeah, Lieber's stupid.
You know?
Interestingly, earlier today, Lauren was saying that people who misinterpreted the news about the gaming were stupid, right? There's a lot of stupid going around.
There's a lot of stupid going around. But like I say, everyone can survive through. If we've survived through Jackson Square so far, which nobody really talks about too much, but if you pick up a book.
Toronto tonight. He just came through from Toronto
Jackson
tonight.
Square sucks,
and he
man.
said it sucks.
My friend said.
Oh, it blows.
What I'm saying, I'm not picking on Jackson Square, except the fact that somebody's vision was to knock down all the local business and all the local community back in the late 60s and early 70s and build that place, and that's where everything started to go wrong. If you open the book called from the 70s, it's so funny because I found a copy last year called "Pardon My Lunch Bucket." It's a fantastic pictorial essay on just how hopeful and how fantastic this city was being directed. Yeah. And on the front cover, I think there's a couple guys who are actually building Jackson Square in their hard hats. But there was definitely a pride in the Hamilton Tiger Cats. There was a pride in the work that we did. There was pride in our industry. There was a pride in our arts, and things were actually, if we could get that back, if we could get back the "pardon my lunch bucket" mentality into this city, I really think that we could do it. And we're doing it in.
Kind of getting it though.
Pardon me? We're starting to get it.
Yeah.
I did it. You know what? When I recently did an interview in Toronto, which might as well be at the other side of the planet as far as knowing what goes on in Hamilton, right? But they said, well, geez, you know, you guys Hamilton's got a really great arts community going on. Well, that's because artists took over James Street North, and because they had a vision,
right?
Because they rubbed two ideas together and they came up with something that was pure and original and interesting and vibrant, and that's what the world pays attention to. I mean, whether you build that casino or not, nobody's going to, you know, if I do an interview in Vancouver next year and there's a casino here, nobody's going to say, well, you guys got a casino, eh? It's like no one's going to say that. They're still going to say, you guys got a great arts community.
So how do you feel about the fact that in committee just the other day, because we are going to run this Laircast in a timely way, they voted down Supercrawl's request for grant funding because it didn't follow through the, sort of the steps that most festival grants have to go through. And Supercrawl is, the sort of, if you will, the beacon light for art crawls and for James
is.
So how do you feel about the fact that that might not get funded this year because the suburban councillors said no to it? You think? Well, I'm just saying they voted.
Well, let's just
they
hope that
voted no.
the
At GIC,
mountain,
it's going to change.
The mountain councilors weren't there. It's got no problems. It'll be fine.
Okay, so they're going to get it. So why are you drawing me into such? You're going to make me spew more venom, Laura.
First of all, I have to ask that you just put your gum down on your iPhone case. Did you paint that on the back of your iPhone case?
No, my daughter got me that. I knocked my iPhone into a sewer about half a year ago, and I spent so much money with my cell phone company that they sent my daughter and I new phones. And with the new phones, they gave me one of those kind of G.I. Joe phone cases that, you know, if you put it in your pocket, you look like you got a heart on. So I didn't want one of those. So I gave that away, and they sent my daughter like a little Marsha Brady flowery one, and that was the one that I liked. So I've been carrying that around for quite a while.
Oh, look at that. You had someone come over and take your gum.
I have assistants.
See? And he says he's
Rock
not,
star,
he says he's not a
rock
big
star.
guy. That's a total rock star move. I've never seen an assistant come over and wipe out gum before.
I know. And my assistant wears Tie-Cat colors, you know what?
Yeah.
So
Well, so here's the thing. I do want you to spew venom because you do it well. Can I get you some water?
Here comes the venom. There's a bottle of water on the
no, you know what? I really...
So hold on. Here's
All
my
right.
Tom's tuberculosis isn't
Here's my venom.
contagious, is
No,
it?
he's got a bad cold. Here's my venom.
Oh,
streak.
thanks very much.
Rich.
Thanks for smoking, Lauren.
Thank you very much.
So here's the here's this venom spewing thing. You brought up the Tie-Cats. I seem to remember, were a little pissed off about the whole Pan Am thing.
Mm-hmm.
Why was that? Why did you write that big piece in the Spec last summer?
They just fucked it up, right? I mean, it's just once again, it was like, you know, we're being led by money again. We're being led by businessmen. Was my perception of it, and I mean, it's just time. You know, when is Hamilton just? You know, when are we just going to stop this foolishness and start doing things right?
But Tom, wait a second. That the business interest didn't win. The compromise existed on that file so that everyone lost.
You know what? All I'm saying is that the North End, just north of us here, was a perfect spot for that stadium. It was sitting there, and it was going to develop an area of the city, Lauren, that actually it would have enhanced what's already going on. It would have been like, it would have been like spinning the wheel a little bit faster.
The compromise didn't satisfy the Tie-Cats and their rich owners.
No, but
either.
I mean, it's still it was compromised. A brilliant idea was compromised because of it. You know, and you know, I really believe. I know I'm on this show, and that you guys. You know, I love you guys, by the way, and I said earlier, without your voices, you know, we need your voices in this city to get me all aggravated. And I just got off a plane, so I'm all mad now. You know, so you need, you know, we need Matt Jelly. We need people to be speaking like this.
And being an asshole.
And as a guy that is in and out of this city,
Am I wrong?
as a guy that's in and out of this city all the time, I rely on all of your opinions to be able to know what's going on and to be able to assist this city to try and get in the right direction. But I don't believe that anything is going to be solved anywhere in this world with loud voices. It's going to be solved with tenderness and thoughtfulness. And I really believe that. And I know I'm a big old middle-aged guy, and I look like I just got off a Harley Davidson, but I truly believe that for anything that I've said here tonight, because you aggravated me, Laura. But anything I said tonight is not the stand that I like to take on these things. I really, you know, I love this city, and I get mad about things that happen in this city, but I really believe that calm voices are going to be the solution to making better things happen here.
Okay, so how did the calm voices get heard?
I think that the calm voices are starting to get heard more and more. I don't think that artists scream. You know, I have to take the side of artists. I don't think that artists scream. I think that, you know what? I think we should reprint, Lynn, we got to get the rights to Pardon My Lunch Bucket. And we got to print up 500,000 copies, and we got to deliver them like the old Yellow Pages used to be delivered, door to door in this city. We need Pardon My Lunch Bucket at every doorstep in this city, at every apartment, front door. We need it just like that so that people can look at it, and people who never lived here got to see what kind of hope this city had. People who are not even from this country can understand where they're living, and people who have lived here and watched this city crumble can kind of reminisce and maybe get a new breath of fresh air into this city. So it would be a wise investment for everybody to have that book. It would almost be the Bible of good vibes in Hamilton.
Well, Lauren's wearing a chalk stripe suit. You're money now. You're the big man. Are you going to finance this thing for him?
Buy a book.
You buy a book.
Bankroll the man.
You know what? You know where you can get Pardon My Lunch Bucket? What's that store, Matt? Mixed Media down on James Street North. Everybody go down to Mixed Media and buy yourself a copy of Pardon My Lunch Bucket.
They will love it. Okay, some more questions here.
You remember that book, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Do you know what? Actually, The Spectator did a spread a couple weeks ago on a Saturday of all of the beautiful heritage that we've lost, all the architecture. And I took a photo and I said, Matt's about to turn Hulk on us here because it's everything that would piss you off, I assume. But some other questions from your fans, taking us on a slightly different way. Girls with pink hair, yay or nay?
Oh, yay, all the way.
There you go. That's from.
Actually, you know what? More than pink hair, girls with hair.
Yeah, you're a fan of the hair.
Yeah.
That was from Shelley Fabrizio, wanted to know. I've got another one here. This is from Tommy Gunn. Do you know that guy?
Yeah, I know Tommy.
Yeah, Tommy said, have you heard yourself on the new Tommy Gunn CD, Unleash the Hounds?
No, I haven't. I'd like to hear that.
Yeah, well, there you go. You've got it on here. Somebody else wanted to know, and these are important questions to some people. I don't know why. What do you prefer, an aisle seat on a plane or a window seat?
Window seat, because you can put my giant head. See, I have a giant jack-o'-lantern type of head,
Well,
and my head is so big that my eyes are on either side at my temples. I'm like a shark. My head is
Hold
so
on.
big.
This is the perfect example of the difference between an assistant and a family member. In the background here, I hear the assistant say, his head is full of brains, and his daughter go, no, it isn't. That's perfect. You got to does family keep you grounded?
Yeah, family's the most important thing in my life. Family saved my life in 1999. I'm in my 14th year of sobriety.
Wow,
and if it wasn't for the...
You're such an asshole. You really are.
So great.
You're a hardcore asshole. You realize this? That's not a news flash to us. I'm just reinforcing it.
You know what?
Asshole.
Maybe if I start drinking again, it'll be with you. I stopped drinking in 1999. My last drinks were at 4 in the morning over various substances at the Mermaid bar with Frankie Venom and Tim Gibbons. We were there till about 4 or 5 in the morning.
Fergie owned it.
That's right. Yeah, Fergie owned it. Yeah. So those were my last drinks, and because of the golden hearts of my children, and now my grandchild and my grandchild to come, and actually of my first wife, it's the only reason why I'm still alive today. So way to go, guys.
Well, you know what, and I love you for saying that, because somebody on Twitter, I shot out a picture of the Lair, and it had a bar in it, of course, and someone said, I don't think that's going to be what Tom's going to want, in terms of, I was saying I was going out to get resources. What?
He's a tea drinker.
Well, okay, so somebody on Twitter brought that up, so people know that you're sober and admire you for it, and but somebody else also tweeted me, and I'll have to find the guy's name here. Let me get over to Twitter. I've been on Facebook. But somebody tweeted me and wanted to know, what's your favorite blend of tea leaves?
Oh, I like, what? Not even tea leaves. I like a matcha. It's a powder, which, is an old favorite. But it's a green powder of, it's green tea.
Okay. And
you actually ceremoniously kind of whisk it up, and you pour it into your glass. And it's actually got as much caffeine as coffee, so way to go.
Really? Yeah? Okay. They'll want to know that. Somebody else, David Brace, asked, what relationship do your paintings have to your songwriting, if any?
A complete... I started painting in 1997, the second time I stopped drinking, and then I started painting a little bit more. I started giving them away to women's shelters that needed to make money, and then I was asked to do this show in Toronto with Michael Stipe from REM and Daniel Lanois and the late Long John Baldry, and I did all these paintings for it, and the guy said to me, the curator of the gallery said, well, how much do you charge for these? And I said, well, I don't know. I usually just give them away to charity. I said, well, how about $500? And he said, I can't make any money off selling paintings for $500. And he went and put $3,000, $3,500, $4,000 on my paintings, and they all sold. So I kept on painting.
So what's more excruciating for you? Somebody's response to your painting, or somebody's response the first time they hear your music? What has more of your soul in it?
Excruciating?
Or exciting, or what has more of your soul in it? What's more?
Well, it's all
intense?
out there for. It's all out there for. I don't really rely on other people's perception to jurisdict what I'm going to create next. Right. But
do you anticipate their response the first time somebody?
Well, I just want to be loved, of course, like everybody else. I want to be deeply. Actually, I want to be deeply loved by millions. Yes, by millions.
Well, by 7 in Canada.
My God, no. You know what? The idea to me of creating
All 7 Canadians love you.
Don't forget about the
These are
ladies
all
in the
Americans
airport.
in the Lair.
Don't forget about
The
airport.
idea of creating is a little bit like this
Yeah.
conversation in that, you know, you kind of can't take back what you've said, what's been recorded here. You know, whether I went over it, I will not listen to this conversation because I can't stand hearing my voice. And like I say, you guys got me riled up a little bit.
Why is that? Why don't you want to hear yourself?
Because I know what I said, and you know.
All you said was that council's
there's
a little
no-
stupid.
Yeah, well, they
Stupid,
are.
stupid.
But I mean, there's no.
I believe he said bathtub of shit.
Yeah. He said,
Yeah.
plug the hole in the bathtub of shit. Yeah,
That's right. Did you guys like that one?
That's classic,
Yeah.
dude. Oh my god.
You know what?
I
It's-
can
The
already
next
see the
book.
bathtub of
What's
shit
that?
The next
Twitter
book
handle.
should be called The
Yeah,
Bathtub.
bathtub of shit. Yeah.
But why don't you like listening to your voice? You listen to your music, right?
Well, I have to. I'm just not. I've already said it. It's kind of like, you know, I do paintings, but I don't stand and stare at them. You know, I mean, I don't need to. I don't need to hear myself. I create things for to hopefully make this world a better place
Do you
or
ever
a more
sit
peaceful
back and
place.
put on
Or
an old album of yours and
Part-
kind of get back in that headspace? Or do you just
I
sort of
don't
create
think I
and
do.
move on?
No, I don't think I do. I don't worry about that too much. And also, you know, some of the songs I've written, I got to sing pretty well every night of my life, or
Right.
people get really mad.
How does that feel if you've moved past that headspace?
Well,
Yeah.
I have kind of with this new record, with this new Lee Harvey Osmond record. I've actually I've been able to give myself the opportunity to perform that new material and not really walk backwards too much.
But
I
you
don't
seem like
mind. I
you
don't know.
keep
I mean, I
yourself-
wrote the songs to sing, so I mean, I became a writer and artist, so I could do whatever I wanted to do whenever I wanted to do it. So, you know, I'm kind of on track right now.
Yeah, of course. Although after the Terry Cook Lair cast, people thought you spoke too much, so I got to rein you in this time.
That's why
Lauren
I'm
has
asking.
not spoken at all.
I
today.
know. He's being very restrained.
Oh, Laura, Twitterverse people, may I ask a question?
I do have my people.
I
That's
don't.
true.
I don't mean. There's nothing behind this, and there's no gur attached.
You're
Please
gonna
do
love
my
the
festival.
caveat.
Please do my festival.
You missed the
Junk
finger
House
salute.
has been somewhat removed from your persona. I'm just wondering if you could talk to that. It's not highlighted on your most commercial success comes out of Junk House.
Yeah.
It's not even mentioned in your Wikipedia.
It is- I
it's
didn't
not.
notice that.
It's
Dead on the internet, remember? He died
But
last
he's
So,
not bad on Twitter. He's pretty active on Twitter, though, I got to say.
That's you know what, Lauren, that's actually an interesting point. But I mean, it was a time in my life. You know, it was a pretty rough time in my life, Lauren. I mean, you know what? I got to be. If I wasn't, I was kind of like, you know, I was kind of like City Hall. I kind of thought I was more important than I was. You know, let's just say that. You know, it's
is it intentional rebranding?
well, you got to keep developing as an artist. If I was still really into playing out of my head and wearing that leather jacket and all that stuff, then I'd be doing it. But you know, we develop as we got to keep developing as human beings. We got to keep getting better. We got to keep being more thoughtful. And my way of doing that is to keep reinventing vehicles for me to be able to express myself. So I'm always looking for new ways to express myself. That's why there's a difference.
Where did Lee Harvey Osmond come from?
Lee Harvey Osmond came from originally 1992. I came back from New Orleans, and Ray Ferrugia and I wanted to put together a band for my songwriting that was thoughtful. It was inspired by the Cowboy Junkies Trinity sessions and Miles Davis Kind of Blue. And
Did you get all the Lee Harvey Osmond reference to New Orleans, or did that happen to be where you came from?
No, I'd come back and I was inspired.
Because that's what makes me think of. I know,
Yeah,
I think
no,
about that.
not,
Yeah.
that's not where that comes from. The name doesn't come from that. But we wanted music that we could vibe to, that was tones, so we wrote melodies over tones. And we went out and did that on Queen Street in Toronto, and nobody really gave a shit. So then we started drinking a lot and turning up our amps and playing a lot louder and getting in fights on stage. And then all of a sudden we got this giant record deal and a lot of money, and people were putting us on planes, and we were flying to castles in Scotland and playing with Oasis and Jeff Buckley and you know, hanging out with Celine Dion and Bob Dylan and all this crap, right? So we were kind of, and we were just a bunch of knuckleheads from Hamilton, right? I mean, we never pretended to be anything more than a bunch of knuckleheads from Hamilton, and I didn't expect to ever play anywhere except wherever the 401 and on the east and the north and the west end of Ontario, right? So all of a sudden, you know, just get a phone call and say you got to go to Scotland, you got to go play in a castle. So it's like, yeah, right. But you know, it all happened, you know, and but that part of your life, you stop actually caring. It moves so fast that you actually stop caring about the things that are important to you. And I got lost. And so I don't really reflect on that part of my life too much.
That's part of the journey. Isn't that the journey for most artists, though? When they hit it big, they go through this kind of warped time and everything. Like, we see so many artists who go through that, right? They make it big, and the world is almost is surreal.
It is, and I call it playing rock star, because that's what it is, you know? I mean, I don't think that you can ask my friends and people that know me, I've always been the same guy. My ego didn't get overblown, any more overblown than it is now. It wasn't about ego, it was about losing.
That's not true? He's got a big ego now?
No. That sober, more mature Tom is a kinder, gentler Tom than the younger Tom. Absolutely. Agreed?
You get an applause?
Yeah, well.
From people back here?
Thanks, Lauren. I appreciate that.
No, I think that was a compliment.
Yeah, it was for sure.
True.
I've only ever known the kinder, gentler, sober Tom. So as you describe yourself as how I've always known you, right? Is a nice guy.
Well, you know what? Let's just say that I feel I'm really happy with where I'm at right now.
Yeah. But you don't regret those days? You don't regret those memories, those experiences?
Well, you know, you got to sin to get saved, right?
Right, and that's why Folk Sinner.
Yeah.
Why is that the title of your book? The sin thing still big for you?
No, but there's a lot of learning that we get to do, and hopefully, and I don't speak for myself, but we get to take that journey, and we actually get to come out the other side.
Yeah.
You know, and we're okay.
And we get to learn from it. So to you were just playing rock star. To all of us and everyone listening, you still are a rock star, Tom. But you're the kind of guy who actually knows what's going on. And I might have aggravated you, but you know what? I love to hear the honesty, and people in Hamilton will love the way that you just broke it down.
Is that right? Was that okay? Because
it's awesome. You know,
like I say, I must really put a fine point on this. There's nobody's face and nobody's name that comes to mind when I ridicule the what I call the stupidity of City Hall. It's not like I'm picking on anybody in particular. I'm picking on a movement that needs to be changed.
Would disagree with that sentiment. There's been this sense of bad decisions for decades, and it seems as though maybe bit by bit we're getting a new sense of confidence, and there's a new sense of engagement, and people aren't putting up with shit anymore, and so these decisions are not being as damaging or lasting as long. We're kind of checking those decision makers more quickly than maybe we could in the past. But I don't think anyone argues with the way you've described it. It's just nice to hear you say it, because you're the guy that people respect and know, and we know that you've seen the world, right?
Okay, good. Then you know what? We did okay here tonight.
Awesome. Well, let's end it there before we fuck it up totally.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks for having me. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Tom. That was great.
Thanks, hon.
Chats in the Lair is a Power Group production. Visit us at powergroup.ca or laircast.com, or check us out on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.